This is Technically Legal, a podcast about legal technology, innovation in the legal industry, and the impact tech is having on the law. I'm Chad Main, the founder of legal services company Percipient. And on today's show, I'm in conversation with James Barclay. He's the CEO of Passle, the maker of CrossPitch, which is an AI-powered thought leadership platform for professional services. On today's show, I'm talking to James Barclay. He's the CEO of the UK legal tech company Passle. How I learned about Passle was a few weeks ago, I came across an article that piqued my interest. It was about the company's tool called CrossPitch. What CrossPitch does is it taps into a law firm's marketing materials and all the articles written by the attorneys. And from there, what it does is it creates an intelligence map, which is a visualization of the lawyers and the content they write and the connections within their law firm with whom they're sharing it. As we'll hear today from James, Passle built the tool to help attorneys and law firms cross-sell across their various areas of expertise. It enables them to do that not only through the aforementioned content visualization, but also via alerts sent throughout the firm when lawyers write new articles or offer new materials on thought leadership. I worked at a law firm for a long time, and that's why I thought this tool was so interesting. It's no secret that law firms are very siloed, and attorneys really only focus on the work that's in front of them because they're trying to meet client demands. But as we also all know, the business of law is a very real thing nowadays, and you got to get new business to keep the lights on. What's a great way to get new legal biz? Other types of legal work from existing clients. But because some law firms are so big nowadays, attorneys in one office may not be familiar with what attorneys in other offices are doing. In fact, that can be true in the same office. And if attorneys don't know all the services that their firms are offering, how could they cross-sell? In fact, to this point, Passle's research figured out that most firms are missing out on at least 10% of their annual revenue simply because their attorneys don't know what other colleagues are doing. If your law firm is doing millions or even billions of dollars a year, you can do that math on what's being lost.
Back in the 90s, I started working with the co-founders of Passle. So this is our third technology firm together. And back then we were running conferences about the internet and how the internet would change the world, which it kind of did. We were running the internet for Great Britain and the internet for Southeast Asia. And we were selling pickaxes to the gold rush that was the internet. But the important part was we built websites back then. And we worked out that to sell a conference, the best way to sell a conference was not to sell the conference, but to talk about whatever the conference was about. But instead of doing that once a year, we did it every single day. We built content-rich websites back in 1997. We didn't know it was called content back then. We called it e-news. But we realized that content was important to show what you know. And that has gone right through our businesses. So always thinking about, okay, how can we disrupt? How can we help when technology disrupts industries? What we wanted to be able to show was what people knew and be able to describe that online and enable that. And so our second business was really random. The first businesses were sold, but at the top of the dot-com boom, but the second business was really random. It was pictures on cards. You could put whatever photograph you like onto your credit card, a picture of a dog, which we became extreme experts in this ridiculous niche. And so we started writing a blog back in early 2000s, and we realized that blogging sucked. Really difficult to start, middle of the day, blank screen, and write what you knew. So we employed a ghostwriter. They wrote for us. It was great at the big stuff, terrible at the insights, terrible at the stuff that we only knew. So we shot the blog. That business got sold, but the business that Passle started was on the back of it because we knew content was really good for websites, and we knew that people who sold what they knew found it really difficult to showcase that expertise online. So how could we make that process easier? And that was 10 years ago. And that's really the fundamental of Passle, is helping very busy professional service folks, so mainly lawyers, show what they know online quickly and easily.
10 years ago, when the company was founded, was legal your focus, or was this a broad brush across professional service?
We were trying it with everybody and anyone. We didn't know where to focus back then because, classic entrepreneurs. But what we realized quickly was that legal had something unique, which was law firms are very, very similar to each other and very different to everyone else.
Everyone else being a normal
every
business.
Other firm in the world. Yeah, every other business in the world. Yeah, they are unique. And if you're going to develop technology for legal, you've got to develop it for legal with them in mind. You can't build something generic and then drop it in and hope for the best. So we just focus on legal, and we just focus on legal in the States. We do also do some consultancy as well. But people who sell what they know, I suppose, is the focus.
out of the gate you focused on legal, or there was a
No,
reckoning?
it took a while. We
Yeah.
got Freshfields very early on as a client, and we got
Mm.
some other big law firms as clients. And that's when, again, as entrepreneurs, so sat there and there's something over here we should focus on. And the thing about a lawyer is that they are the product, but they're also in charge of their own marketing, their own business development. They're owners of the business. This partnership model demands so much of them, and also, demands them to build 1,800 hours a year. So when are they going to get a chance to show what they know online? And how could we help that? And so that's what we started. How could we help these people show what they know online and be able to display the width and the breadth of their knowledge to the people who are important to them, their clients and their prospects?
You say you got Freshfields kind of early on. What were you selling at the time? What did they buy? And how has that changed over time to 2025?
So back then, and we look after over 100 law firms. It was very much thought leadership platform. So attorney being able to use our platform as a way of creating thought leadership quickly and easily. And we don't sell directly to lawyers. We go to chief marketing officers, BD officers, and we're able to enable them to empower their attorneys to create thought leadership quickly and easily. As that, we still do that. That's the bulk of our business. It's worked fantastically well. We've got wonderful clients like Ropes and Gray, and as I say, Freshfields, Foley. We just launched with Quinn Emanuel, some of the AmLaw 200 and some smaller ones as well. However, what happened is as we were proceeding with our business last 2 years, AI came along, artificial intelligence, and we got thoroughly excited because we love disruptive technology at Passle. Our developers got thoroughly excited and started playing around. And rather than just randomly going to market with AI solutions around content, what we did is we went to our clients and we said, okay, what is it that we could help you with, that we could solve for you? And by that, I mean, people like Reed Smith and Linklaters, Michael Best, Catton, went to them and said, what is it that we could do to help you? And what's something that is always discussed at your partner retreats? And they said cross-selling. They kept coming back to cross-selling. Sadie Barron, who used to be CMO, and I mentioned Reed Smith, she was CMO at Reed Smith, said cross-selling is the cheapest, fastest, and easiest way to grow our revenue. We were chatting to quite a senior BD director at Latham's, and he was saying, if only Latham's knew what Latham's knows, then we'd be, a $10 billion firm instead of a $6 billion firm. So there's this opportunity in cross-selling that we started focusing on. And what could we use AI to help that with? And one of the things we did was went off to managing partners and asked them what they thought they were leaving on the table as far as the money they weren't making because they weren't effectively cross-selling. And the research that came back was at least 10% was left on the table. So you think about AmLaw 200 firms and the revenue they make, 10% is many millions of dollars. So how could we help with that? And that's where our new product, CrossPitch, came in, really to help cross-selling and to help the problem or the challenges that avoid cross-selling happening effectively in law firms, which are awareness and trust.
Explain it. So let's say you're selling to me. I'm a CMO. I'm a BD at a law firm. What are you selling me, and how are you selling me?
The first thing we do is say, look, as I say, biggest challenges are awareness and trust within an organization, within a law firm, that mean that cross-selling is not as effective as it can be, or cross-serving, or however you want to talk about it. And so what we want to do is be able to attack those two and say, increase awareness, increase trust, but do it without spamming, without sending emails to everybody in the firm, because that's the last thing that's needed. So what we did, and I'll try and describe it, very simple, is we developed AI that reads your thought leadership. Doesn't need to be on Passle. It's great if it is, but you can create it on any platform you like. But it reads the thought leadership that your attorneys and your team create, and it understands what that thought leadership is about.
How does it read it? Do you feed it, or is it scraping the internet?
No, it literally it goes off and it's fed into our platform.
So when a lawyer writes an article about, I don't know, cross-border data privacy in transactions,
Autonomous vehicles, whatever it is, it goes into the system. Our AI reads it. Our AI is trained to understand legalese, so it knows what it's reading, number one, and it understands what it's about. It then goes and it reads all the bio pages of all the attorneys at your law firm. So if you've got 1,000 lawyers, it goes and reads all 1,000 attorneys, buyers pages, and it links the two. It says which of these attorneys would be interested in this piece of thought leadership, and therefore whose clients would be interested in this piece of thought leadership. It very specifically matches that piece of thought leadership with the attorneys who would be interested in that piece of thought leadership.
Then how does it let them know? Like, let's say I'm in that article is written by somebody in London, and I'm in San Diego. But there's like some synergy there. One of my clients would be interested in this. How do you tell me in San Diego that my partner in London just wrote this great piece of content?
So essentially, our technology puts together a smart notification, and the smart notification, it's an email, but the smart notification does a number of things. The first thing it does, and imagine Oscar has written a piece of thought leadership about autonomous vehicles, as you say, New York, and it's identified Alice, who's a partner over in San Diego, whose bio says, I'm interested in IT and technology. So Alice will receive a notification. The first thing it does is it will tell Alice that Oscar exists. So it will say, hey, Alice, Oscar's written this post. And then it summarizes that post in 80 words to 100 words for Alice. So in 20, 30 seconds, she can read very quickly what Oscar has written. She doesn't need to, but of course, obviously, she could click through to that post and have a read of it, that thought leadership, and have a read of it too. But that's the awareness piece. Number one, she knows Oscar exists. Number two, she knows that Oscar has just written a piece about autonomous vehicles. Importantly, in that email, we also include a section that tells Alice specifically why she's received that email. So it's taken the thought leadership, it's taken Alice's bio, and it's matched those two as well. It says, Alice, we sent this to you because in your bio it says, you'd be interested in it.
Hey everyone, Vicky from Percipient here. I just wanted to give you a heads up about a new service Percipient is rolling out in 2026, subpoena compliance services. If your company gets a bunch of subpoenas or data requests, Percipient can help. Literally the whole process. You just forward the request to us and Percipient takes it from there. We'll check if it's actually valid, flag any issues, and let you know about any objections. Then Percipient works with your team to gather and prep the data. You'll see everything in Percipient's secure portal. Status, due dates, metrics, all of it. So you'll never be out of the loop. And my favorite part? If you're allowed to charge the requesting party for costs, Percipient software collects that money for you before we hand over the documents. Basically, Percipient handles legwork so your team can focus on the core work. If you want to chat about it, head to percipient.co or shoot us an email at subpoenas@percipient.co.
So you said something there that I think goes to the crux of why you developed this tool. And the age-old problem in law firms generally since the beginning of time, or the modern age when lawyers had this, it was more than just a guild. You mentioned first thing it does is let the San Diego attorney know that Oscar exists. Yeah, so here's the thing. You mentioned that when an article is written, it's got to be put in the tool so that others can know that it exists. But how are you finding that firms can be disciplined to do this? Because to your point, we don't even know Oscar exists. Like he may be, everybody's a kind of autonomous partner writing articles on their own. They might not be telling the CMO and the marketing team they're doing this.
No, quite right. So anything that's created on their website as thought leadership, it goes into our system. That's all automated. There is nothing the last thing a chief marketing officer needs is another job for their team.
Right.
So no, fully automated, and it all runs in the background. What's neat is that the CMO and the BD team can set what we call a relevancy meter. So if you think about that, it's matching that piece of thought leadership with that attorney. And if you turn that relevancy meter right down to 0, which would be a terrible idea, it would span every single attorney in the firm. If you turn it up to 100, no one in the firm is going to get it. So what you do is we've worked out, you set it about 80, and that seems to have the right amount of relevancy to those attorneys. And in the background of Passle, at any moment, the team can go in and have a look at exactly why an attorney has been sent that notification. But the whole thing runs in the background without any need for any effort from the team, which is really important. On average, the system is creating, or an attorney is receiving about 2 to 3 pieces of thought leadership per month. So you're only receiving 1 or 2 of these notifications a week. So you're not getting heaps and heaps of notifications. And I think that's really important, is that when they get them, they know they're important. They know that they've been specifically targeted to them and that they can therefore share those with their clients. and they get that awareness and trust through getting those regularly.
That goes to the next question I was going to ask. This is silos, right? That's been the problem. Everybody's siloed. They don't know what San Diego doesn't know what New York's doing, London's doing, or could be in the same office. I worked at a law firm for a long time, and even in the same office between practice groups, we didn't know what the hell was going on. So there's another step in this, and I think you touched on it, and hopefully there's something built in there, is the attorney in San Diego gets this notification about the article on autonomous vehicles. How do you motivate the San Diego attorney to actually share it? Because, these silos are created a lot by human nature. I don't want to share credit or whatever. I don't want them talking to my client. I mean, I think that's an absurd fear. I mean, it happens a lot in law, and that's why you built this tool.
You've got to go with what actually exists in law firms. This is not going to be a silver bullet. You're not suddenly going to launch CrossPitch and it's going to solve cross-selling, right? But what you are going to do is attack that awareness and trust. So the point is that Alice sees that post from Oscar. Probably the first time, she doesn't do anything. She probably just reads it and goes, it's interesting. Second, third, fourth time, that's when the trust starts building up. That's when she starts saying, this guy Oscar seems to know his stuff. I might reach out to him. The likely thing she's going to do is reach out to him at the partner retreat or pick up the phone. But it's building that trust over time so that people start understanding who's got what knowledge in the organization. And with that comes I think then the other part of this, which is they can, of course, share that with their clients and their prospects. One of the things that we've heard again and again from law firms is they go to their clients and they say, hey, what do you like about us? What don't you like about us? And we heard this actually from Linklaters. They said, I think you're great lawyers. You get us out of trouble. You show us, what's coming around the corner. You're really expensive. We get it. I mean, I've got 3 law firms. I get it. Third thing that often comes back to lawyers is you only contact us when there's a bill. You only talk to us when there's an invoice. It would be great if you acted more like trusted advisors and less transactionally. And lawyers go, I definitely should do this. I know I should contact my clients between gigs, but I'll get the ick. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to feel salesy. So what we built into this notification is a really simple tool called Istatoi. I saw this and thought of you, where if they hit that, it will create an email for them. And that it will be written for them. And it will say, my colleague, Oscar, has just written this post. It's about this. Click here if you'd like to have a read. And all they have to do is literally write, dear Justine, love Alice. And that's an easy way for them to contact clients and prospects in a helpful, lawyer-friendly way, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I saw a stat that open rates from content sent from CrossPitch it doubles from 18% to 42%. Is that what you're talking about there? You hit the magic button and send the email?
One of the things about Passle generally, but specifically CrossPitch, is we wanted to build an AI tool that can be implemented within a week. We didn't want to build an AI tool which looks amazing, solves everything, but the very first conversation has to be, 4 months with the CTO and the CIO and risk and everyone else. We wanted to do something you can implement. That requires us only to take public information. So the public information is the bios, which are obviously published, and the thought leadership, which is obviously published. So we see that. So what we can track is the open rates internally of these notifications. And what we discovered is that no one opens internal emails in a law firm. The industry average 18%. When we've talked, and I won't name them, but when we've talked to AmLaw 200 firms, they're like, it's 5%. So we were interested to track that. And what we've seen is that the open rate on these CrossPitch notifications is 44%. What's dead interesting is that they're increasing, which means that they are useful and people are now looking out for them with our clients.
So the 42% you mentioned is the email to San Diego about the autonomous driving article.
Is the internal open rate, which is unbelievably low with other notifications. Whereas this one, not only is it high, it's actually now 44%, as I was saying. It goes up, which has been really cool.
Right. And so there's another part of the tool too. There's a visualization. Explain that.
This is where I get really excited because we're a dev house, we're a technology house. We employ extremely clever people who come out of Oxford University and based in Oxford. And they got thoroughly carried away and said, what if we were able to show the data points? And so it's a bit difficult without showing you, but there's a video on our website. But if you imagine dots and lines being joined together. So the dots are individual attorneys and they're together as cities usually. You can look at them in cities, individual attorneys. And the bigger the dot, the more thought leadership they've created. And then the lines are who that thought leadership has gone to. So we're calling it the cross-selling intelligence map. And it's indicative of the collaboration and the cross-selling opportunities within a law firm. And you can suddenly see, okay, here are the attorneys who are telling attorneys within the firm what they know, right? And so you can then map that by city, by practice, by industry, and by individual. So you can click on an individual, you can say, oh, they created these 4 posts. These are the people they've connected to. These are the people who have opened it. And you can start seeing essentially light spots and dark spots. An easy way to describe it would be if 5 laterals were coming in, right? They'd have nothing. They'd be dark. They wouldn't have any dots or any lines. As they start creating thought leadership, and it was started to be sent out, you could start seeing where their collaboration is within the firm, where the potential links are, where the potential cross-selling opportunities are. And if you had 2 that after 5 months were all lit up and 3 that weren't, well, you kind of know who's doing better than
Right.
and who.
And that's what I was just about to ask or just point out, there's value in that graphic, in that table, more than just, hey, who's writing the most articles and who's doing the most work, because it shows who's valuable to the firm. Like they're going out there promoting their thought leadership and promoting their practice. There's real value in that, like outside of just marketing.
The interesting part there, and this is where the managing partners are getting very excited, because we show this to the CMBDOs and they go, we got to show the managing partner. Because you can imagine it's very difficult to talk about collaboration and cross-selling leading indicators, what you should do before the money comes out. And so you can say, oh, it'd be good if Chicago was a bit more active.
Right.
London is really active. But that's difficult to do, and you can't show it with data and tables. People get bored. But if you show a snapshot of this is January and look at Chicago's all lit up, and then you click on London and London's it's completely dark, it doesn't take a genius to work out that London should probably be doing a bit more, right? Or if that's industries, then life science is doing great, but I don't know, autos is doing less well. And so you can do that over time, and you can take snapshots.
If there's a correlation, let's say practice groups like going gangbusters and like represents X% of the firm's revenue, but my autonomous driving practice group means not, is doing nothing. Like it shows like, well, there's some connection here.
I was down at Barnes and Thornburg, they're a client of ours, and I was down at their partner retreat, and we were showing this early doors. And the lawyers were like, that's fantastic. But what I really want to do is see who my thought leadership has gone to, because it gives me an idea who I should talk to about projects coming up. So we developed that too. So they can actually click on themselves and they can see lines going to individuals all over the country, other lawyers all over the country, many of them who they didn't know, going, I didn't realize that there was a connection between us. That's cool. And so then they're able to start meeting them. And one of the things one of our AmLaw 200 clients is doing is that they are asking their lawyers every single week to connect with at least 1, hopefully 2 other lawyers at the firm in some way.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
This helps them do it. Like, who do you connect? Do you just start with A and go to Z? Or do you actually go, I'm going to start with the people who are getting my thought leadership, because we've got a connection straight away.
Right.
You can start seeing how this is a leading indicator that drives behavior, that drives cross-selling. That's the point of it. And you can implement it immediately, which is cool.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So on a related topic, like, so let's say, the lawyer doesn't know about the graphic and the connection, the points of interest. They just want to find out, all right, I got a client asking about immigration law. That's not my area of expertise. How can I find who's the expert in our firm or who's written about it? Does the app permit users to find information that way?
So if you think about it, the flip side of the coin of what we call CrossPitch send, which is notifications being sent to folk and then they open them. The flip side of that coin is search, because we now have an awesome search tool based on natural language and on bios. So traditionally, if you go into, and I did this with a very large law firm earlier today, and I put lawyer just to see, they have thousands of lawyers, lawyer as a search function. Apparently, out of all their thousands, 15 are lawyers, because only 15 results came up. I then put in M&A lawyer for a SaaS firm in Maryland. 0 came up, because it's all based on keywords. And the name of the lawyer. And what you actually need is a natural language search, how people talk, because that's how we are now searching. And so we built that now as well as a search function is you can go in and say, I've got a SaaS firm that I'm interested in selling. Who could I talk to on the East Coast? And it'll understand that and bring up New York, DC, Boston lawyers. And so it's geographic, and then it looks at their bios and it said these are the people who you should talk to. It's really cool. So yeah, that search function is also part of CrossPitch. We funny enough, we've got it at CrossPitch search. Yeah.
So we've talked about all the features that it has and all the cool stuff it does. What's on the roadmap? Like what's the one thing that you want to roll out?
Where we're getting really excited right now is number one, we only came up with this in January as an idea. We launched in June, and we've now got 30 clients who are doing it. What we've been really fortunate about at Passle is just the support of the legal community. And particularly here in the States is what I love about the States is when you have an idea, people go, I want to try that. So we're building this. The map is just coming out live in the next, hopefully by Christmas. And so we're running that with our clients. That search function, I think, is probably the big thing. And then also working out then, once we've gone right across, and how we also go deeper into those clients as well. But I think Mo Burnell taught me the IKEA effect, which I've always think is really important, which is essentially IKEA know that if they give you a flat pack of furniture and you build it, you feel more value out of that piece of furniture. Whereas if you just went and grabbed it, you wouldn't feel much. And that's very much our approach to this is how do we work with our clients to build what we've got to fit what they need? But most importantly, how do we do it so they can win right now today? Because there's a lot of AI I think The Economist talked about 60% of AI projects failing because they're just too complicated. They're trying to solve everything straight away. And no. What we know about the technology, and we've done this for a long time now, is you want to do something that solves the problem now. And then you can then see the next step of what you need to solve. And you do that by building something, showing it to your clients. Your clients, that's cool, but what about if? But you've got to show them the first step, and that's what we've now done. So I think the what about if is going to be really exciting.
That's cool, man. Well, James, I appreciate your time. People want to learn more about Passle. They want to check it out. They want to get a hold of you. Where do you want to send them?
Just send me an email, james@passle.net. Send them to our website, passle.net. We run a great podcast, the CMO Series Live, which is with CMOs. And so that's worth a listen to.
Cool. Yeah. And then we should point out it's PASSLE.net.
.net, N-E-T. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ted. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Okay, that's a wrap for today's episode. As always, we really appreciate you listening. If you want to subscribe, you can find us on most major podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, etc. Also, if you like us enough, I hope you leave us a favorable review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, this has been Technically Legal.